2011 GMC Acadia, rear brake pads and rotors. Okay. What you want to do is break your lug nuts loose, and those are 7/8. And you break them loose, and then you can jack it up and support it properly. And then you can remove your lug nuts, and then remove your rear tires. And then you want to remove the caliper bolts. There's 2 of them, one here and one down here. Those are 14mm. Take those out and get yourself a screwdriver, a decent sized one, flat blade. Here's what your caliper bolts look like. 2 of them, 14mm. Okay. Get yourself your flat blade screwdriver. Stick it in here, in between the hardware, and just pry off the caliper a little bit. Okay. And then catch it in your hand and set it up over here on top. I'm gonna get it off. Okay. But you want to look at it. You want to look at the boot. You want to look at the piston. This is a plastic piston. Make sure it's not got a big crack down the center of it, causing any problems. So the boot looks good. You want to clean this off. Get a little some soap and water spray, degreaser, Windex. Clean it up. And you look at your pads. That one's metal to metal almost. Looks like they're stiff, frozen in there. Because when the brackets rust, they swell and then they squeeze the pad. So when the pad goes into the rotor, it doesn't release. So the pad kind of stays applied a little bit and wears down prematurely. Also, you want to look at your caliper brackets, your slides. Make sure those are freed up. They're freed up, so what you're gonna do is you take them out and you clean them, and you put some new Silglide on them. So now we're gonna take off the caliper bracket, and those look like a 21, but I gotta double check it. All right, caliper bracket bolts, 21mm. I used a breaker bar with a cheater bar. Okay. So I could break it loose, and then I used my 21mm ratchet wrench. Now here's the caliper bracket. Need to get the pads out of there and the abundant clips, you know, the hardware. Clean up the surface inside there. See the rust inside there? You need to clean that up. That's what squeezes on your brake pads. It makes them stick, make them frozen. Okay. Okay. Clean them up. Use the angle die grinder with a little disc on it. Sandpaper. Did it on an angle. Works great. Now I'm gonna paint it, and then I'm gonna remove my slide pins. All right, I painted the caliper brackets. Put some Silglide on my pins. As you push them in, twist them. So that helps move it around inside there. Make sure you get some lube on them boots so they'll stay sealed and keep the dirt and the water out. You don't want to pack this full of grease, then you won't be able to push your pins in. So you just put it on the side of the pins and you twist it as you go in, okay? These pins, there's no top or bottom, they're the same. Okay, so now I'm gonna wait for my paint to dry. While I'm doing that, I'll take my other side apart and I'll go get my parts. All right, next thing you gotta do is take off your rotor. If the rotor's frozen on there, spray it down with some penetrant and let it soak for a little bit. And get yourself a decent hammer, and you want to hit it around the hub like that. See it moving around? So then get yourself a screwdriver stick it in this side, best you can, pull it out. As you hold this side out with the screwdriver, hit this side on the back side. That will make it go like that. And then as you're pulling on the other side, actually trying to work its way off of the shoes inside there for the parking brake. Screw a lug nut on there to keep it actually from falling off and landing on your foot. What I do is I hit it on this side. So it's moving. Come to the other side, stick my screwdriver in there. Pull them out. Give it a little jerk. Coming. And you can go back and hit it again. Okay, it's off. All right. And you want to save this plug. This plug is for your not self-adjuster, but for your adjuster for the parking brake shoes. All right. Most of the time they have a retainer screw holding the rotor on. This one don't. If they do, it's usually a Torx bit. If the Torx bit breaks off, then use a flat chisel and work it in the direction of going off, okay? All right, so this is ready. So you save the plug. Here's your shoes. All right, sometimes your hub is usually all rusted around here. You need to clean that up. And inside here. And the mill here isn't too bad. Just sit them down, sand them down with some a wire brush. And then put a thin coat of anti-seize on there. So when you put the new rotor on, it helps keep it from rusting. So you don't have to clean it up again when you do brakes the next time. Okay? All right. That's it for now. I'm gonna go get my parts. Okay. Put a fine film of anti-seize on the hub. Put your rotor on after you cleaned it with soap and water, degreaser, Windex, glass cleaner. Don't forget about you putting your little rubber plug in. Clean off your caliper. And now we're gonna go get our caliper bracket and put our hardware in it. Okay, put your hardware in there, bundle clips, whatever they call them. Then you can put your bracket under the knuckle, okay? Okay, if you have the rotor retainer bolt, put that in there. Screw that in there, make sure it's lined up. Then put your bracket on there. Snug your bracket bolts up. Remember, it's these big ones with the 21. You can torque them to 129 foot-pounds. Okay, so now they're on there and they're torqued. Now you can put your brake pads in there. Okay, the inner pad has the wear indicator on it, the squeaker, and that goes towards the rotation of the rotor. What you want to do is you want to put it in the bottom first and then slide it in the top, because you want to push on these little things, part right here, so you can push them in and line them up. Okay, what I meant by with the squeaker, as the rotor's going this way, you want the squeaker down on the bottom towards it. Okay, that's what I meant. All right, now you put the pads in like this. If you had a hard time getting them in and inner, put them in like that. And then as you come closer to the top, you want to push on that side. See it? I'm pushing it. Push it in there. Squeeze them in. And it's good. All right. Next you need to do is push your piston back in on your caliper. Most people use big channel locks, but the teeth on the channel locks will chip away at the piston. Not a good thing. So we'll use a C-clamp and one of our old pads. And we'll push against it. Okay? Okay. caliper, C-clamp, the old brake pad. Pushes the piston in, doesn't damage it. And as you're tightening up the C-clamp, make sure your lines are not kinked. You know, so if they're kinked really bad at an angle like that, it might restrict the flow, return of the fluid. So give you a hard time pushing them back in. So that's good. So now we'll take the C-clamp off and we'll put the caliper back on, and make sure your hose is not twisted when you get the caliper on. Make sure it's a nice clean shot to the inside there. No twists, so it doesn't look abnormal. As you're putting the caliper on there, you might have to push the slide pins in so you can get the caliper past them, top and bottom. Get the bolts in there, torque them to 25 foot-pounds, and you're good. The line's not twisted, but anyway, you'll have a heck of a time putting the caliper on if the line was twisted, just so you know, because I tried it. So that's good. It's all set. So now you do the other side exactly the same way. All right. And then and then put your tires on, torque them to 140 foot-pounds. And before you put your vehicle in drive or reverse, make sure you pump your brake pedal up so you got a nice firm pedal, because you got to take up the gap in the piston and in the pads, because you put on new pads and you push the caliper and the piston in the caliper, and now you got to fill up that gap. So pump your pedal a couple times to the floor, make sure you got a good brake pedal, and double check your fluid level, and you are set. If I helped you out with this video, that's awesome. So if you could subscribe to me, that'd be great. If you already did, you are awesome. Thank you.